on the Move with Nan and Cam.
Hey guys.
We've just got a 10K Legacy crew in here today.
Yeah.
We're pumped up. I'm sure these are very familiar faces if you've done the Sports Backers event. We are joined today by George and Mike Levins, who are two of our, volunteer doesn't even cover
That's
it.
not it. Yeah. No.
we need to come up with another word for volunteer, but
Right.
They are heavily involved with many Sports Backers events and many Richmond Roadrunners Clubs events. So they're out in the community. If you're part of the running community, we're sure you know who they are. And they've both been involved with the 10K since the very beginning. So that is why they're joining us today. They've been a part of our 10K volunteer committee for this will be the 25th year. So hi, welcome, y'all. We're excited to have you.
Hi.
Thank you.
So just give us a little intro about you. How did you guys first get involved with Sports Backers in the 10K?
I think we both got involved because we were involved in when the Sports Packers took over the Richmond Marathon. The Richmond newspapers gave up on the marathon, and then Richmond Roadrunners wanted to pick it up. We couldn't do it ourselves, so we got involved in the Sports Backers, who weren't putting on events at the time themselves. So we came together and managed to pull off the marathon successfully for a couple of years. And then the idea of the Monument Avenue 10K came up, and I think we either were asked to participate or just, stepped in and said, yeah, we'll do that. So I think that's, Mike, do you have any other memories of that?
Well, I think, the fact is the Sports Backers at the time had a staff of 4. And
wow.
the Richmond Roadrunners had bodies that they could, we could incorporate into that. Definitely it was when the marathon was dropped by the newspapers. So Gordon Fetty, who was the Roadrunners president at the time, he became the marathon race director. And then there were other members of the Roadrunners, Nancy Jakovic, David Kinsey, and others who got involved as well. I think John always had the vision of Monument Avenue as being a great location for an event. And I think the credence that was gained by successfully having the marathon for a couple of years allowed John to be able to sell the idea to the city. And I think that's how the 10K came to be.
Yeah, when piggybacking on that, when I remember when John first started talking about Lugbill started talking about the 10K, I was like, yeah, right. Because as road running, with the road running club, and Mike and I were involved for a number of years at that point in the road running club. We always thought that that seemed like a good idea, but the city was never going to go for it with the road running club to do a race on Monument Avenue. But so when John said, yeah, we're going to do it, it was like, yeah, sure. Okay. But let's hop on board and see what we can do.
And the other thing on that was that the numbers he was talking about he was talking a couple thousand. And at that time, a big race in Richmond was 500. So, the size was just so much larger, and he had the vision.
Yeah, if there's anything I've learned about John Lugbill, it's if he says that he's going to do it, he typically finds a way to do it.
Yeah, somehow 2,400 people showed up for the first Monument Avenue 10K. So it was like, wow, yeah, this is a big thing.
Yeah, that's so cool to just see how the community's grown in Richmond because, running in Richmond is huge.
2,400 to 24,000 is like, what?
But we thought 2,400 was fabulous.
Yeah.
We were blown away by getting 2,400 people out for a 10K. That certainly exceeded my expectations at the time. And, it was basically, it was unheard of. So,
and the other thing is, and it's been a constant to the event, is the involvement of Ukrops. It's always been huge. the fact that for the beginning they were able to have entry forms because everything back then was done on paper. Entries were done on paper. The entries were all over the supermarkets, which still existed at the time. So yeah, that had a huge effect on being able to get those kinds of numbers.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I can never have talked with this about to Cameron, but like so much now of what we do is online. But even when I first started working here 10 years ago, like we used to spend a lot of time keying in the paper entry forms for people and registering like them that way. We would hand out, people would get a whole stack at your desk that you had to key into the system. So yeah, times have changed.
A
Did
lot
you
of
all
things
know
have
each
gotten a
other?
lot easier.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Some people don't think that, but I hope
Right.
so. Did you
Yeah.
all know each other before the how did you all meet?
We met by doing Roadrunner events. I moved to Richmond in '89 and started running some events and really got involved as a volunteer and going to club meetings and then eventually on the board, starting in 1990. Mike had already been here at the time. I don't remember when. Mike can tell you when he moved to Richmond. But so we were both involved in putting on Roadrunner events at the time and running Roadrunner events and working finish lines and doing timing and all the stuff that we do now. We were doing together on a small scale. Started, the two of us together and with other people starting in the early 90s. So by the time, yeah, the marathon rolled around and then the Monument Avenue, we pretty much had what we do down. It was just adapting it to, larger events.
Yeah.
And on the other side of it too is we were part of the same running Thursday night running group,
Oh, yeah.
which
Oh, nice.
had spread through all the. We were down in the Fan. We were out at Boy Chicks in Innsbruck, and finally back at the museum. But yeah, we were part of the same running group for a good number of years.
Nice.
That kind of leads us into the next question because I was going to ask, I'm sure since the scale of events has gone up and up and up and it's gotten so much bigger that what you guys have been doing is the same, but it's just had to adapt because the race is so much larger. But for everybody who doesn't know, what job do each of you do leading up to the 10K and on race day?
Um, Before the race, I've always been involved in getting the USA Track and Field certification for the course. I go out and any course change from the first time of setting up the original course to any course changes to any recertification. I go out and measure the course, make sure it's accurate, and get all the USA Track and Field certification for the course. And then on race day, I make sure the race starts on time.
It's
Uh,
important.
Yeah.
8:30, everybody better be ready to go and in place because I'm
Right.
starting the race at 8:30.
Right. And
Leave
we
on
were
And
having
time.
that conversation at the Virginia Credit Union River City Half. I was telling him because we were we were strict on the time that everybody was supposed to start, and there were people starting so late. And I just looked at him and was like, "Can you believe this?" And
Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, I have to deal with this for years and years and years at every race." And I'm like, "You're right. Like you're used to it."
yeah, well, at that race, well, the one photographer was there from the photo group, and he's like, all these people are running around. Don't you have them behind barriers? Blah blah blah. I said, just give me 5 minutes before the start of the race, and this will all be cleared up, and there will be no more chaos, and everything will be ready to go. And I looked at him 5 minutes before the race. The street's clear. Everybody's in place. I said, see, you know,
Yeah. You're like, I know
we
what
know
I'm
what
doing.
we're doing around here. We know how
Yeah.
to do this.
A little
Uh,
practice.
Right.
yeah. And then once I get with Monument Avenue, once we get the first say 10 waves going, I have to get to the finish line because I work with the timers to make sure that all the award winners are timed correctly. Because awards are not award timing is still done by what we used to call gun time. So when everybody says start, that's when you actually time the people. It's not chip time. Awards are given out based on actual start time. So we need manual timing at the finish line to record that. Chip timing is still not used for awards. It's actual manual timing that is still used for awards. So I've got to get from the start line to the finish line in order to make sure that that happens and everybody's set up and ready to go for when the first runners come down the street. And then after that, it's just making sure everything flows correctly coming across the finish line.
Nice.
Mike, where are you at?
Okay, well, before the race, I'm at the expo for the number pickup. So I'll be out at the raceway on Thursday and Friday distributing race numbers. And then on race morning, after Michael leaves the start area, they need somebody to fill in behind to get the rest of the waves to go off. And so I take over after Michael leaves.
So you have an important job. I told you, you're not just standing around. I knew you were doing something out there.
I was going to ask, really, this was not a question that I sent you all, but Jackie mentioned it in staff meeting today, and it is very pertinent to the conversation. You and Cameron have something in common, Mike. You're both kids run coaches, or for Kids on the Move. So you're both run club coaches for Kids on the Move, which is really cool to see you involved that way, since that's one of the official charities of the 10K. Where do you coach?
Henderson Middle School.
Okay. What's that been like? How many years have you been there?
About 3. I had been down at Greenlee, which is a trailer park community in Chester, for a few years. And then for about 2 years, I was at Lucille Brown Middle School in Richmond. And COVID kind of ended that association. When Kids on the Run started up again, Henderson was one of the first schools to get back on board. So I started over there, and I've been over there for, I think it's 3 years now.
And how many kids do you have in your club?
Right now, we meet twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, and right now, on a usual day, we have about 15.
50 or 15?
No, 15.
Okay, I was like, oh my
Mike's
goodness.
just in charge
No,
of kids,
no.
middle schoolers.
Yeah, when we brought them to the Taggy Light Run, I was nervous because this is my first year coaching, and I was nervous, and I was like, there's so many people. But now, like, the 10K is like 4 times bigger than that. So I'm like,
Are they going to do that too?
Okay. Yeah, they're doing the 10K.
Because yours are little guys, though, right? Elementary?
Yeah, I have little ones. So I think my oldest is in 5th grade, maybe 4th or 5th grade. And a bunch of, and I have like 12 to 15 kids too, but it still is when you get little kids like that in a huge crowd of people, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Do some of your kids, since it's middle school, do some of them do the full 10K?
No, actually, we're not involved at all with this event. Schools, the Richmond middle schools are involved in the YMCA Next Up program. So we're getting ready to actually have a break, and our event is this Saturday for the SBCA Dog Jog.
Yeah, nice, the dog jog. Yeah,
that looks fun.
It does.
That's really cute.
So Cameron asked about the leading up to race day and all your jobs, but then also you talked about how there were 2,400 people there the first year. So tell us a little bit, what was the first 10K like?
I don't have I have vague memeries of that.
You're going 25 years.
You're going back 25 years. I remember it was a nice weather day. And I really, we were just happy that we were able to pull it off, I think, and that it went so well and it was so well received. But nothing in particular stands out. I know most of the, I was trying to think of who all was involved in that. I'm still friends with some of the people that were like the course marshal and the race director and that sort of thing. But I it came out well. It was good enough that by the second year we doubled the number of people that ran the first year. So I don't have anything specific about the first one.
Well, I remember the registration was on the second floor of a hotel that was down on Franklin Street between
Oh yeah.
Belvedere and the Jefferson. I think we were in there for 2 years. And the other thing, the first year, going back to the involvement of Ukrops and the post race festival, the quantities of post race items that were provided, and there were a lot of folks who left with a lot of items.
Yeah. Didn't need to grocery shop that week.
No, especially if they like White House rolls. They probably had a good supply for a while.
Yeah, we talked about it on another episode that me and Ashley were going through the pictures of previous years, and one year they were handing out cans of soup at the post race festival, and I was like, okay, like I don't know, maybe people like eating cold soup or they're just saving it for later, but that's crazy.
There's probably still some White House rolls hanging around in somebody's freezer at this point from
Yeah.
from that point.
Yeah. So do you guys have any favorite memories or favorite years that stick out that you can remember?
Well, Mike and I were talking yesterday. The first thing that comes to mind when races sticking out was the year that there was a fire at on Broad Street at the buildings that were being built, apartments that were being built right on Broad Street for VCU. It was going to be the start line and the finish line up until that point were both on Franklin Street at Monroe Park. Well, it was getting too big to start there with the wave starts and everything. We were barely getting the waves out before the first runners were coming back. And today, obviously, the first runners get back way before the last people get out. But at that point, we were reaching that point, so we decided to move the start line up onto Broad Street. It was going to be the first year that the race was going to start on Broad Street. And then Friday, I guess it was late morning, there was a fire in this construction site right there on Broad Street, right at the start line. So we had to shift modes and redo everything and get back for the next morning and redid it back at the old start line at Monroe Park.
That makes me want to hurl now, thinking about it, to happen. I'm like, I don't even,
I was at work that day. I was out checking on a job site, coming back on 64 towards the Bryan Park interchange. I remember looking at the skyline of Richmond and seeing all this smoke. And I got back to the office, found out where the fire was. It was like, I got to get downtown now. Again, at that point, I think the sports backer staff was still 4 people at that point. This was, I thought, what did we decide yesterday, Mike? This was like 2004. I think or 2004 maybe that this happened.
Because it seems like, I sort of related to where we had registrations in each of those years. And the first 2 years were at that hotel on Franklin Street. And then for 2 years, we were in the basement of the Altria. And
right.
When this happened, we were at the convention center downtown. So I can't remember how many years we were at the convention center and which year it was. So I'm going to guess and say it was either year 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was either year 5 or 6 when the fire occurred.
So
We've got several people on staff that still remember that to this day. And also,
Well, of
that used to
course.
be something that if you ever asked Scott Stricker any memories, that the fire made its way out every year. He was always remembering the fire. But I think
oh
Mary
God, yeah.
Marshall and John were both
Mhm.
there then. Well, John definitely was, but I think Mary
Yes.
Marshall might have been there by then too.
She may have been there on a
Uh-huh.
part-time basis. Yeah. She may, yeah, she probably had come on
Mhm.
board, but yeah. So that, that's the one that really sticks out because we were scrambling at the last minute. So I went out, found the old mile marks. We reshuffled everything and pulled it off, without a hitch.
As you guys would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's for me. This is the most memorable. There's been the dates. This was a floating date up until a couple of years ago. It could be any. I think they based the schedule on a spring break and
Yeah.
Easter.
Mm-hmm.
So the date for the race could have been anywhere from the end of March to where it is now towards the end of April. So weather conditions could really vary. I remember standing at the finish line not too many years ago when it was still back in March and it was snowing. There were
Yeah.
snowflakes coming down
Yeah.
next to Monroe Park. And it was windy and that sort of thing. And then the next year, of course, you would have 75 degrees and sun. So
Mm-hmm. Virginia.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's how
But
last year day, and then out of nowhere, just huge storm.
Yeah, this was Cameron's first event last year, and
oh
she
yeah,
didn't
that's
have
right.
a raincoat yet, a staff issued raincoat.
Ah,
And then the skies opened up as we broke down, and Cameron was just soaking.
I was just there. Yeah. No raincoat,
Mhm.
shorts, tank top on. And I was just
yeah,
like,
I remember getting out right before it
Yep.
started raining. It was raining on us on the way home, but we got out right before it started raining last year. I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, and usually the coldest place anywhere is the finish line. Somehow, you could be a half a block up the street and it's 10 degrees warmer than it always is at the finish line. We always figure out the shadiest spot on the street to
yeah.
place the finish line.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have any other memories that stand out?
Not so much memories of an individual event, but I think, as I mentioned earlier, things are just so much easier to do now than they used to be. From the registration locations that have changed over the years, the thing that I don't remember, Nan, if you were on board at the time, we were still having to post all the entry forms, all the lists of entries on these big wooden,
Yeah, I was here.
um, you know, and so, I have to have a shout
Exactly.
out to Fran Gilday because she was the queen of organizing all these individual sheets of paper. I mean, there were literally hundreds of sheets. Because some of the years, I think, we topped out at close to 40,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
so when you talk about, 100 names to a sheet, I can't remember exactly how many it would be to a sheet. And you have to get them organized, alphabetical. I think we did them in alphabetical order. It was just an amazing. So first of all, we had to allocate that space in the registration area, which I guess a lot of those years was at the Arthur Ashe Center, and and then, of course breaking them down afterwards. But and then all the boxes of race bibs, they were all
Yeah.
pre-assigned. So by the time we got them, you had to go to the right boxes and how to organize where people, after the people found out what their number was, and you had to go to the appropriate table. And so now in recent years, we've gone to dynamic bib assignment, which I didn't think was going to work, but
Same. Yeah.
obviously others were right. And we've done this now for both the 10K and the marathon now for several years, and it seems to work just fine. And it's really cut down on the amount of space and needed to to organize and keep everything together.
Yeah, and we can attribute a lot of that to Michael's daughter, Mara, who is on staff and handles all of our registration. But yeah, I feel like I don't know what's wrong with me. That wasn't even that long ago. I blocked that number board out of my memory until you just said it. But yeah, I've just happened to staple numbers all over the place.
And the other thing is on the back end of it is the timing. It is now so much easier than it was, because back in the day it was we had tear off tags. You would have to have someone at the finish line tearing off tags and keeping those organized for for whoever the timing company was at the time to organize the results. And then we went to chips that were actually fastened to the shoes, and we had to get those back. That was a lot of fun.
I can't imagine that.
And then, so now that the fact that the chips are actually on the back of the bib, I mean, it is just so much easier. Everything is just so much easier. It was.
Glad you were here only for the easy.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking
And you had also mentioned about
what we do is like.
Yeah, and you had mentioned too about doing all the data entry by hand. Now people do the register. I'd say 90 some odd % of the registrations done online by the registrants.
I know. And we used to also, like, when I would walk up registration and stuff at the 10K, it was also like you would have to, just lines in general, because people had to stand there and fill out an entire form and get all of that settled, where now we can just tell them, step to the side, register on your phone, and then we can help you right after that. So I know it definitely, we always, I think, get in our head because we want to have a great experience for people. And so when we see lines at things still, I know we all get really panicked and we're like, is this too long of a line? Is this process too complicated? And wow, talking about this now, I'm like, you're right. It is pretty easy.
Oh yeah, you should have been around for the first marathon that the Roadrunner sports backers did. It was talk to John Lugbill about that. That was a bit of a fiasco. Talk about long lines. I think where was that? The Marriott downtown, I think
Yes,
it was.
Yeah.
And it was a complete mess. But we learned from that. And as a matter of fact, I think Monument Avenue has always been chip time. By the time Monument Avenue 10K came around, we did the first year or two of the marathon with manual timing and tear offs. But by like at least by the third year of the marathon, we had the early days of chip timing, and Monument Avenue has always had some form of chip timing associated with it. Which, yes, it has revolutionized what I do and Mike does, from putting on a 5K of 100 people up through the 20 to 30,000 people with the Monument Avenue. Yeah, it's just revolutionized and made things so much easier for that. Yeah.
Why do you guys think that the event has continued to have such a big staying power in the community? Obviously, 25 years is a lot of years. There's not many events that kind of last that long in Richmond, which is an event town, I'd say. But why do you think the 10K has kind of been able to stay around?
Richmond loves a party.
They do.
I come back to that all the time. People ask about that or whatever. First of all, Richmond loves a party. So not only do you get the runners out there, you've got all the people, from what I've been told. Again, Mike and I have only ever seen the start line and the finish line. We have no idea what goes on out on the course. We only have stories of what goes on out on the course.
Legends.
But from what we understand, it's a big mobile party going on out there with with the bands, with the residents, and then interacting with the runners. That's one big thing right there.
I think John Lugbill talks a lot about how life-changing this event is for so many people, because it really takes a commitment to do a 10K. You can kind of fool your way through a 5K, but for a 10K, you got to put in some commitment that they're able to, if they're able to do this, there might be things in their life where they might start eating healthier, they might exercise more. They can make some positive changes in their life. And the other thing is training teams. The training team mentality, and it's just not only through the the sponsored Y ones, but there are so many other groups that have gotten together to organize their own training teams. And the people you meet through these groups are people you may not ever have any dealing with in any other way in your life.
Yeah.
And the only thing that really matters is what pace, what is the pace you run or walk, because that's going to be the people you know. Nothing else is going to matter. It's just going to be that pace.
And I think too, like you said, like the training team, Cameron's doing a 10K training team for the first time. And that was really this event after I interned at Sports Backers and did it was the catalyst to me like working out regularly. And then I also think Richmond has a ton of other training teams, and even like the winter training team that we had for the River City Half, and then the training teams in the summer. I think it's just so many of those same people bop around and do all of those training teams that it is such a great way to get, and all of those people are involved in like other running groups. So it's just a really easy way to get plugged into the running community, I think.
Well, as Michael said, Richmond likes a party, but Richmond also loves its training teams.
They do, which is kind of a mobile party as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been out and talking to people around the country in a long time about, but what we do in Richmond, I think, is pretty unique as far as the running community goes. With as much everybody's got running groups that meet. Every town's got that. But as far as organized training teams that pretty much run all year round now.
Yeah.
I think Richmond's very unique in that, and also just the running community. The Richmond Roadrunners Club, how much the club is integrated into the community, and how many events the Roadrunners themselves put on and help out throughout the year, and partner with those sports backers in putting on things that is unique to Richmond in some ways. That not you talk to people in other clubs around the country, and they're not doing what the Richmond Roadrunners are doing. They don't have an organization like the Sports Backers in their town doing what those two groups do in Richmond.
Candace and Nikia, and they both were talking about how they were talking to someone, and how, because they're both marathon training team coaches, and they were telling people how they coach on course throughout the whole race, and other people were like, what are you talking about? I was like, it doesn't, like, isn't that kind of normal? And they were like, no, nobody else does that. Like,
right.
We are like almost the only people who allow coaches to literally go run this way and then run back to go get more people and then come with him this way. And I was like, wow, I didn't really realize that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's so. And when you ask them, like I was talking to Candace, she was like, I'm not running any marathons this year. And I was like, you're doing Richmond, like coaching. She was like, yeah, I'm coaching now. And I was like, they just don't see it as a race for them. They see it as a coaching opportunity. And I think that's really unique, because even if you're like if I was coaching, I'd be like, I did a marathon, and they're like, no,
they do more than a marathon.
Yeah,
normally.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. So I think that is really cool. That
I think maybe the event has also benefited from the change in the running community in general. I think when Michael and I first met in the 90s, the running community was much smaller, and I'd say much more serious. And I think it came across. I think people were almost intimidated about the idea of joining a running club. And I think that has changed dramatically. And now it's, we really do accommodate all paces. There are so many people who just walk, and that's fine. As long as they're out the door doing something, that's wonderful. But I think that an event like Monument Avenue 10K is going to benefit from that, because we do have people who are going to be out there just walking. There's a huge, the last group that goes off the line is just for walkers. And there's several thousand people involved in that wave. The
couple of other things is the females females I see are driving running these days.
Yeah.
And that's a big change over the last 30 years. Look at numbers for half marathons. There's always more females in half marathons than there are males. And just I'm out in the running community all the time, where they're at a running store or working races and everything. And yeah, the my feeling is 35 to 55-year-old females are what drives running at
Oh
this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Across the board, whether it's just recreational running, whether it's serious running, whatever, that's where running is at this point. And the other thing, to what Mike was saying about everybody, you stand at the finish line and I watch everybody coming down the street, and the diversity of people that are coming down the street. You do not see that diversity of ethnicity and gender and all that. You don't see that anywhere at any other event in Richmond. I go to concerts on Browns Island. I go to festivals, different places, and we're out and about. But there's nothing that shows the great diversity of the Richmond area more than Monument Avenue 10K. Stand at the finish line, just watch the people coming down the street, and it's just amazing. It's like the UN is coming down the street almost. It's
Yeah.
great. It truly does pull the whole community together.
Yeah, I want to tag on that a little bit right now. First of all, on the women, for the first time, I believe ever, the entire board of the Richmond Roadrunners is female.
Oh
And
wow.
and the other thing is that who I work with at the expo for the registration, I am usually the only guy.
Yeah.
The rest of it's all women. I
Yeah.
go to those meetings, I'm the only guy. So I'm not complaining, but I think it's a matter that it's something that people ought to know. How much women really are driving in these events, how much they're in leadership. The race director of this event has been a female for 15 years at least,
Yeah.
maybe 20.
Yeah.
So
For most of the history, yeah.
It's been females.
We actually currently only have female. The whole time I've worked here, we've only had female race directors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, Michael was talking about, is the people. I mean, when people talk about this event, if you look at pictures of this event, what you notice is the people. And that is the most important thing. And I think that's probably part of the success of this event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I make it a point to post at least once or twice about, during the 10K specifically, like how diverse the people are that are doing the 10K, and like showing people that there's people that look like them. It's not just the like one person who's running and taking it serious. It's literally people who walk, who like are in wheelchairs. There's like 9-year-olds doing the 10K. Like there's so many different types of people that it's like, I don't want anybody to feel like they can't do it, because there's so many people that are doing it.
Yeah, and I think too, like you all said, with the walkers now, how there's more, and how it used to kind of maybe feel more intimidating. Even when I first started to work here, we would say that it was walker friendly, but like it was still majority feeling that running thing, and people still had the attitude of like, I can't do 6.2 miles. And then to really shift, and now like feeling totally authentic and saying like, this is a walker heavy, walker friendly event. And it is like, if people go out there on race day, they're seeing just as many walkers as they are runners. So I think that is cool, because it is just such a gateway that meets people where they are, that I think it's definitely become, that's where it feels more representative of the whole community for sure.
And I know you guys said that y'all really aren't on course throughout the day. You're literally at the start and then you go to the finish. But is there anything in particular you guys look forward to most on race day? Even though you don't get to see a lot of it.
There's nothing I look forward to more than anything else. My favorite moment on race day is that couple of minutes right before the start where all the chaos just
Yeah.
gets organized. It's quiet. We've got the national anthem, and I'm just waiting for the count, to give the countdown. That's just like, that's that just feels, that's my sweet spot right there. It's just
I like
right
that.
before the start, and it just feels so good to have everything in place, ready to go, organized. Everybody's lined up, and we're just waiting for the start. I just love that moment. That's perfect for me, you know. And then right after that, the start. As soon as it starts, it's like, okay, we're underway. That's it. My job is done. Everything's good. The race is underway. So those would be my two favorite things about race day. Yeah.
I sort of have a routine every year now where I park in a certain spot. And
Yep.
alas, there used to be a coffee shop that was open there, but they now don't open early enough for me. But anyway, so then I usually wander by Monroe Park and check in with Mary Marshall and just see some other folks, go by the finish line and usually see some folks I may not have seen for a while.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
then eventually stroll over to the start. Before the race, my responsibilities are not that much. Michael's got has all that burden. So I just kind of wander over to the start and try to get over there around 8 o'clock or so, and just kind of fill in as I need to. And then when Michael needs to leave, I take over the waves. But yeah, that's sort of what I look forward to on race morning.
Yeah, you're a big coffee guy. We need to call that coffee shop out and tell them they need to open early on race morning for you. The 10K depends on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of you.
Yeah, we run on coffee.
Yeah, well, I think we all do that week, but
Right.
yeah, I think it's rare that I ever see
We run.
Mike. Love that. Rare to ever see Mike without a cup of coffee in hand.
Oh,
If I
yeah.
had a Mike action figure, that's what his accessory would be.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He's
What is something that you guys think people would be surprised to? Anything that you think they'd be surprised to know about behind the scenes?
I think it's the women. I really do.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's great.
I don't know that people know how much this is, what goes on is dominated by women in this event.
Yeah.
And that's true for all sports backers events.
Yeah. That's something that I've honestly thought about pitching as a story to the media at some point. Maybe I'll do it this year for the 10K, but I've had that thought too, like after events, and obviously like John Reagan's is our truck logistic master. So like he's always in the back of that truck, but there'll be times where we're doing very physical work and I'll look around and I'm like, this is
Oh, girlies.
a bunch of women.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, this was great, but I think now we're going to give you guys some this or that's. Just you're going to have the same questions
For both of you.
and they are 10K related.
Okay.
Okay. Well, sort of. Some of them are just general. We know you're involved with us. So the first one is general.
They're sports backers.
Yes.
Right? So between the two of you, do you like being at the 10K better or being at the marathon better?
Yeah.
Depends on the weather.
Yeah.
That's a good
It's a good answer,
point.
honestly.
I like all the excitement of the marathon, but I like the fact that the 10K is only one event and I get done quicker.
Yeah, I was going to say it is. I always forget. I feel like I'd be tempted. I love the marathon because I love that lead up of like seeing the training, knowing what these people have like put in.
Right.
But it is nice when we're done by like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was thinking that as well, but
You can be honest. Yeah.
the marathon is more like Christmas.
Yeah.
And people really have an anticipation for that.
Yeah.
And I think, because of the longer distances, there's been much more preparation that has to go into it. And, I think the celebrations and all are just so much bigger for the
Yeah.
for the marathon. But I'm with you about the fact that the 10K is done so much earlier in the day.
Yeah. And we are typically a little bit warmer, although you never know. Virginia weather, it might be that warm in November. We don't want it to be,
Well,
but it's
a year and a half, the one a couple of years ago was pretty warm.
yeah, real warm. So we know that you get some sweet swag when you're a committee member. So do you prefer your fancy jacket or pullover or your free shoes?
I think I like the pullover. I've been wearing Monument Avenue quarter zips. I've got every one going back that we got, and I've been wearing them on my daily runs for years,
Yeah.
and they don't wear out. So yeah, those Monument Avenue quarter zips, those are really sweet.
Yeah, I have to agree. I have to agree with that. And my particular favorites were, I think, like the first ones we got that had the little zip pockets, because I love
Oh,
to
that's
have
great.
those. Because
Oh yeah.
I can shove a car key or a house key and zip it, and
Yeah.
it's great to have on a run.
I love pockets. I'm going to campaign
Yeah.
for that to come back.
Yeah, bring the pockets back.
Especially when we're wearing them at the race. You can never have too
Yeah.
many pockets on race day.
Exactly.
Okay, and the last one is because you're at both. Do you prefer being at the start line or the finish line?
Oh boy. That's like choosing between my two children.
Yeah.
We keep
Oh
the
my
questions
God.
coming.
Yeah. Normally we do
Uh,
ask people to choose between their two children or their dogs.
We've been known to ask people that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Because they
You
both
know,
have like a different feeling. Like you said, the start line is like more of an adrenaline rush, and then
yeah.
like the finish is like
Time to party.
emotional and like
Yeah, there's the start line. There's a lot of hectic running around,
Right.
stuff going on. But then I've got a lot of people coming up to me at the start line that I haven't seen in a while, and people hollering at me, and a lot of good fun conversation going on, and just like he Mike brought up Christmas. It's like that anticipation of Santa Claus coming and that
Yeah.
sort of
Right.
thing. You get that buzz, and then but the finish line, yeah, there's so much emotion. First, you've got the fast runners coming in, and you want to see who's going to win and how fast they can get through the course and that sort of thing. And then the people that it's their first time and they're coming across the line and they're bawling.
Yeah.
And they just the range of emotion at the finish line. It's just two totally different things, and I can't pick the two. Like I said, I got two kids. You tell me, which one I should pick. No,
It's all right.
I love them
and
both.
that. You selected both.
Yeah.
This and that.
That's okay.
Well, for me, it's the start because I don't really have any responsibilities at the finish line.
Okay.
Basically, for the finish, there are certain things I'm supposed to do at the start line. So, as long as that gets done, I like that. But the finish lines are great because you can go and hang out and see the folks who have finished and the emotion, and sometimes you actually get to see them both at the start and the finish. So
Yeah.
that's
The-
that's good too.
The one thing I've got to say is, though, I've never gotten thrown up on at the start line, but I have at the finish line.
Yeah, last year, because again, it was my first race, I almost got thrown up when I literally was like, oh no, like this is not going to happen. I have to be out here a few more hours. I easily moved out the way. I was like, well, sorry, sir. Like, nope.
I was written up in Runner's World because I got thrown up. I used to get thrown up on all the time at Monument Avenue.
Really? We got to find that. We got to find that archive.
I've got the article.
I'm gonna need to see it.
It was when Bart Yaza was still working for Runner's World, and they were doing an article on people that work finish lines. And so I guess Bart said, "Hey, there's this guy to Richmond that gets thrown up on all the time." And so yeah, I had a little article in Runner's World about standing there getting thrown up on at the finish line, and it's Monument Avenue. It's not the marathon.
Yeah.
It's not
Fast, they go hard.
any other race. Monument Avenue, boom, every time. Shoes,
What a title to have.
shorts,
Trooper.
What a thing to be known for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can remember non-sportsbacker events where you were having that issue.
yeah, every once in a while I got to dodge it, but yeah,
There are finish lines everywhere, so if somebody's yakking, watch out.
yeah, well, yeah, but Monument Avenue is the big one. You can stand there and tell what people had for dinner the night before sometimes.
Nice.
Yeah, so.
Well, this has been great. Thank you all
Hey,
so
I gotta
much.
add one thing
go
about
ahead.
one thing about Michael is that Michael is also well known at the start line. I mean,
Oh, I know.
he is part of the race experience for many people. We,
I'm
we,
sorry about that.
we ran an event once several years ago, and someone else who was running the event looked over, saw Michael in the starting chute, realized he wasn't going to be starting the event, and it was like his race experience was then lessened.
Oh, he was like, I want him.
He wanted to be yelled at by Michael.
Yeah,
You are the official voice of a starting
Yeah.
line in Richmond. I definitely agree with that.
Sometimes that's what gets the people going. Gets them hyped up.
Yeah,
is getting
you're
yelled
good
at.
on the mic. You should be hosting a podcast.
Yeah.
I have thought about that, but no.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, and I feel like that it's just your family in general, and both of you are so well known in the community. But yeah, I always think about working the expo, and the amount of people that come up to say hi to Marcy at the expo is also just so fun to see how many people know her, and from her coaching 10K training team and doing stuff with road runners and everything. It's just fun. It's I always say Richmond's like a little big city, but it definitely feels like a small community when you're talking about getting to know people over so many years that have been involved in so many.
Oh yeah,
areas.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. We love you all, and we're very grateful. All of Sports Backers is so grateful for all of your years and all of your help.
Legends.
And you can never leave us.
Yeah.
Well, it's in my will that my ashes will be scattered at the finish line of the marathon.
Wow.
So we may
Perfect.
save a little bit for Monument Avenue also. So
Just a
yeah,
whole
you're
year.
not getting rid of me that quick.
We don't want to.
No.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.